Hi there, I am the CRM Ninja, and on today's episode of the Oops Factor, I have Chad Althaus. Welcome to the show, Chad.
What's up, EY? Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
It's wonderful to have you. I mean, we've collaborated, via written material and exchange of ideas around certain code and stuff. It's great to be able to be talking in person.
I know. It's been great. I mean, this is the closest in person as we can get. So,
True, true. While leaving aside the general state of the world, you are, of course, on not just a different country, but a different continent where I am. So
there's a little bit of water between us.
just a little bit of a which incidentally talking about different continents, so this is why I've got the background that I have, is because I'm sitting very, very comfortably overlooking Tower Bridge in London. But the reason that I've got this up is because I understand a passion of yours is traveling, and what better
It
way to
is.
travel than in a jumbo jet?
Yeah. No, definitely. Yeah, I mean, so my wife and I enjoy traveling and we do when we can, but we had a baby a year ago. And so that is my new hobby is being a dad and being we hope to go somewhere at some point, but we're just trying to we're looking forward to a getaway of some kind just locally. So we enjoy exploring new places both close and far. We like going to just drives. I mean, Texas is huge. I'm in Houston, and so we can drive just not far, and we're kind of in the country, and we're on the outskirts of the town. So there's a lot of places to explore and we enjoy that, but we have not done that in the last year whatsoever. So my new job and part-time job and full-time hobby, I don't know, is being a dad. And so working from home it's been a blast because I'm able to be here for all the moments that first steps and all of the different things. And so that's kind of become what I do with all my spare time now. And I'm
Yep.
trying to figure out how we can do anything else and also take care of a kid. And I know you've gone through that as well. So
I,
if you have
I
any
I have
tips,
indeed.
I'm
I have
welcome.
indeed. We had one born just over a year ago, but she wasn't our first. So I like the way you say, one of your job is being a dad, because I always say to my wife, I'm babysitting our kids when you go out. And she goes, you're not a babysitter if they're your own kids. It's called taking care of them.
Yeah, yeah, no, exactly. And
But
so,
no, traveling, yeah, you get used to. I mean, we actually with baby number one, so this goes back some years. We traveled 5 weeks after she was born.
ooh, that
Yeah,
that sounds wow. Where'd you
it
go?
was
How
it
far
was an
away?
experience. So we went to New York,
Oh my gosh.
and the reason, right, dare anybody accuse me of child abuse and taking a child of 5 weeks out, the reason why we went to New York is my brother got married, so we went to
Okay,
his wedding.
okay. Well, that
It was
that does make some sense. You can't really move that. Hey, push that back. No, that's
he was
impressive.
nice enough that we did communicate when we were expecting the baby to come along, and to ensure that it didn't sort of conflict too much with it. So they were already slightly accommodating for that.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, my mom took me somewhere in a plane when I was under a year old. I know that, but it was from one point in Texas to another. So I don't know how you could going across the ocean. That's impressive.
Yeah, it was an experience, but she was well behaved. We were all very well
Yeah,
behaved,
that's good. Well, I'm
and
I'm kind of at an advantage with not having to avoid things like that because everything was locked down when we had our baby at the beginning of COVID. So we
yep,
couldn't do anything even if we wanted to. So it's kind of nice.
that is
No
true. But
pressure.
hopefully you're getting some sleep.
I am. Yeah, no, sleep has returned back to normal. So we're past all that. I mean, for now.
So, where do you think you may want to travel? When things open up, leaving aside traveling locally, where do you think you'd like to go with a little one?
Hmm. I've got a friend that moved out to North Carolina, and I would love to visit there. He's surrounded by trees and just nature, and we don't have quite as much of that in here. And that's that's someplace I really enjoy places just with natural beauty. And I enjoy going to cities as well. But places with natural beauty just to explore, we have a lot of fun in. And so I think that's one place. I'd also like to go to the Pacific Northwest at some point. So the kind of Seattle or Washington, Oregon, Idaho, up in that area. So very pretty up there as well.
It is very
Probably
pretty,
not,
that.
probably not across an ocean. So we've only done one transoceanic flight, and we will limit them. But we want to explore, but not with a baby so far.
Yeah, there are additional challenges, shall we say, to traveling, especially transatlantic with the little one.
Yeah,
But yeah,
yeah,
good.
yeah, it's fun.
So going from traveling and enjoying outdoor spaces, which is great, especially nowadays when we're cooped up at home mostly, so getting out is important, to the oops factor. What do you have to share with us?
Yeah, so I had one the thing that I was thinking originally. I will talk about as well, which is more dynamics focused, business application, whatever. But listening to some of the other folks, I was reminded of a non-technical oops factor. And so in college, I learned some lessons. I was enrolled in an honors math course my freshman year.
Okay.
And so I was in the honors program, did well in high school, and math was my favorite subject. And so it was an honors math, whatever. Didn't think it would be too big of a deal, but it was differential equations. And I didn't I didn't know what was going on. And I tried to fake it until I made it. And I think I let my ego get in the way, and I should have cut my losses early on because I ended up failing the course and had to retake it.
Ouch.
But thankfully, I did some research and found a professor that had great ratings, and I went with another friend and was able to redeem myself with a good grade in that one, and I understood what was going on. But the first one in the honors class, I think I learned to not let my ego prevent me from thinking rationally, and it's okay to cut your losses. I don't have to just keep on and think that I can do it. They say fail fast, but don't keep on failing if you are just trying to convince yourself that you're not failing. Um, and so realizing that I need to recognize things like that sooner, and either ask for help or uh, or just bail and try again another time, right? So I
Don't lie to
didn't.
yourself, essentially. Be true to yourself. Don't just keep doing it to try and convince yourself that you can do it.
Yeah.
Say, look, I think you can do it, in which case go for it. And if you fail fast, you can do better. Or if you
Mm-hmm.
can't do it, sort of go identify the right resource to help you with that. And then you
Mm-hmm.
can go for that sort of thing.
Exactly. And so I ended up really screwing up my GPA and with that one, and I mean, thankfully I wasn't too hurt from my ego, um, but it definitely humbled me. And because I did very well in high school, and then getting to college, and it's like, oh, math was my favorite class that I did like the best in, and then just totally slammed. And you know humbles you, makes you realize that things are more challenging, need to ask for help, need to be okay saying it's time to stop and I'll try again later, that kind of thing. So a lot of lessons learned, but
That is true. Being humble is important.
mm-hmm, indeed. And the other thought I had, that I wanted to share, the other story was around an implementation of a product we built in-house, a
Okay.
quotation tool that's embedded within Dynamics. And so
Ooh, nice.
it's built in an Angular grid in as a tab of the opportunity, and it works very, very well. We did some great stuff. It was a couple years in the making. We had months of UAT, vetting things out, refining the processes. We put months of planning before we started any development, and we re-architected the entire system because we had some heavy customization that left a lot of technical debt, and it was failing all the time. When we had a developer on contract just to support that, and it was a lot of issues, a lot of technical complications. I didn't know how to do anything because all the core processes were pro code, and I'm not a developer. And
Okay.
so we re-architected things, got rid of some custom tables that we had. We had some integrations trying to keep a couple different tables synchronized, essentially, the opportunity and another one. And we brought them all together, got rid of any kind of syncing between entities or tables. No syncing. There's some maybe one way sending information, but never trying to keep them in sync. And so if I was part of the original implementation, that would be some lessons learned. But where we got into trouble, we did very good job vetting everything, but the data migration was the piece that was neglected.
Data
And
migration, the bit that everybody leaves until the end of a
it is.
project.
And so whenever we're in talking about studying for exams or talking about best practices and things like that, I learned what I mean. People always say this. I hadn't heard everybody say it yet, but you can't neglect data migration, and you can't leave it till the end. And
Yep.
we left it till the end. So when we were in UAT, basically, is when I began the work on the data migration, and I single-handedly created the mappings for everything that we needed, all the data that we needed from the old tables, and we had a third-party CPQ tool as well that we were bringing data in from that server as well. And so all of this stuff coming into the new tables and into the opportunity, we were creating hundreds of thousands of new rows, and
Wow.
I did a pretty good job, but we had this custom Angular grid that the quotations were actually done in. So creating the quotes was actually done in this Angular grid, and I hadn't fully tested trying to manipulate quotes that we migrated. So
Okay.
migrated, looking at the data, looks like everything's right, but there were various columns that I just didn't realize we need to have a value in this for the grid to work properly and for the different code functions to
Ah.
behave as they need. And so the first week of go live, people are saying, "Hey, I was working on this quote last week, and now in the new quotation tool, we can't see it. We can't see anything. This field doesn't work, or when I press this button, things don't work." And working through with the developers, we had essentially multiple data cleanup jobs of that
Gosh.
historic data. And like I said, there's hundreds of thousands of rows that we were having to update, and just various, it's null and it needs to have a value of 0, or it has a value and it needed to be null, and things like that. Just very little things I didn't realize because I didn't write the code and I didn't test the migrated data to see if we could continue working on it. I made sure everything from the opportunity perspective, all the native things I tested out, but actually using the tool that we just were releasing, I failed to vet very well. And so we had a bunch of cleanup jobs, and we had to run a lot of updates. And thankfully we were able to get, I think we were able to get all of it done the first week of go live, but there were a lot of small things like that we had to go back and do bulk updates on. So
It's not fun
plan,
when that happens.
no, it's not, especially with all the other things going on week of go live. And
Yeah.
so I learned don't leave data migration till the end. Plan it in advance. Have somebody else helping. I wrote the mapping. Somebody else, a developer, wrote the package to actually take it to do the migration, which he did everything that I told him to do. But have somebody else to help and vet everything out, vet every scenario out, test every scenario, and make sure all the data that's migrated, because these people are working on the stuff one day and then they come in with this other system, this third-party tool.
Yeah.
And then they come in the next day or the next week, and now they're supposed to use this new tool. And we went live with, we've got actually using the tool a few hundred users globally that were using that the first week. And so probably 400 and across the globe. And so we had round the clock support. And so, yeah, it was, the first couple days were a little rough.
I can only imagine. I've done and been part of large scale data migrations before, whereby even after go live, you've had to manipulate and do some cleanup. So definitely, but no, some really valuable lessons there. Thank you so much for sharing them with us.
Yeah. It's whenever, like I said, whenever we're talking about, like I've been part of some study groups, things like that, for exams, and best practices come up. And whenever we talk about data migration, it's like, don't forget that. Always do it and plan it in advance. And I've heard some people talk about you should start preparing the data migration and reviewing that whenever you start, like from the beginning of the project. Once you implement the project, start that. And that's probably a good suggestion. I don't know what's your experience with that, EY?
My experience is, again, based on the same sort of things that you've gone through, and you start with data migration, planning of data migration, the mapping of it as early on in the project as you possibly can.
Yeah. So
definitely,
it's fun. It's fun. I mean, it all worked. We got it all working, and then we didn't have any recurring migration, thankfully. So once we just did a single cutover, so we didn't have to worry about that for future
brilliant,
iterative updates or anything like that. So
we very, very important
in the system.
Good.
So anyway,
no, that's
learned a lot.
I think that's really good. Both of those stories, in terms of make sure that you're true to yourself in that, and data migration is really what can bring the project to success or failure. So thank you so much for sharing those stories.
Yeah, no, it's been fun. Enjoy talking with you, UI.
It's been great. Viewers, we hope that you've enjoyed this episode and learned some valuable lessons, especially around data migration from it. Feel free to take a look at the rest of the Oops Factor playlist, subscribe to the channel, take a look at the blog. And if you would like to come and share your own Oops Factor story, hit the link in the description below, put in your details, and I'll drop you a line to get on the show. But above all, have a wonderful day.